I have an idea. It must be the best idea I've ever had. Let's go. I can think of 1,000 tricks I could have pulled in the time I've been. Let's go.
So for this tutorial, I am just using the third person template with just the defaults. So to get started with this, if I just go ahead and open up the third person blueprint, inside the blueprints, I will just say delete this one. I already made this one. So all we're doing is on the third person character, we right click and duplicate this. And then we will just go ahead and open this. I will just delete all of this so I can just show you guys from the beginning. Now from this blank here, I just delete these two as well. So first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead to our viewport. At the add component, we will add text. And down here we'll choose the exclamation mark and change the text size to 100. Change the alignment to center, and also at the same time we will go ahead and move this up so it's nice and visible just above the character. Now this is absolutely fine, so this just tells us that this character has something to say or something needs to happen at this place. We can obviously do lots of funky things with this, make it appear, disappear, but we'll leave it like this. Next thing we'll go ahead and we'll say box collision. Now make sure this is not a child to the text render. We'll just click on it and drag and drop on the capsule component, so say child to that, not to this. Drag it about halfway down. On the Z axis I'll say about 2, on the X and Y I'll say 5 each. Now compile and save this, and in the event graph we'll select the box here, go down and say on component begin overlap. So when this happens, this is obviously where we can actually set up quite a few things. Say for example on overlap we can add sounds, or we can play animations, like play animation at the character, which obviously depends on your use. We'll just stick with the basics here. So we'll say do once node. I only want this to happen once, just the first time the character enters this box. And now if I go ahead and drag and drop our third person character, the second one, out here, now we have the markups set up there and also the box here as well. I will go ahead to my my modes up here and search for targets. I'll drag and drop the first one right here, and then hold Alt and just drag on the green axis, on the Y axis, just about here. The next thing we need is, in the same modes, we will look for a nav mesh. So nav mesh bounce volume, this basically tells the AI where he's allowed to go and where he isn't allowed to go. So I'll make this quite big on this axis, about here should do, and make him fairly decent size up here as well. Now once this is done, I will just press E and make a second copy of this rotated 90 degrees and just move it up here, so both of the target points are basically covered. And I'll move both the target points, if I select them both, I'll move them slightly further down, just back here. Now our player knows, the AI knows where he's allowed to walk, so we will go ahead to, I'm just going to do open blueprint from here so I can get access to this easily. And inside the third person character 1. Now once the character overlaps this, I'll simply go ahead and say, so right click, get controller, which just gets the controller for this, because remember this is also a third person character itself. Return value, we'll say AI move to, just the last one. And so this becomes our world context object. And on completed, once we will start this. And then if we just compile this, and I'll just select the target point 1, and I'll use the same values down here. So 890 on the X, minus 1070 on the Y, and 130 on the Z axis. So we'll just run a quick check, and then we'll say on success. So when our target has, when our AI has moved there, we'll just say print string. Now this is where we can have flick funny stuff happening. For example, if our player takes too long to get there, he'll say hurry up, and let's just say 1, and let's just put a delay of about 2 seconds there. So just drag a node out, type delay, and I'll just put 2 seconds in there. So if our target, if our player isn't following him within the 2 seconds he arrives there, he will say hurry up. So just a quick check, this is a third person player. We'll move up to the AI, he starts running over there. We'll wait 2 seconds. So now he's reached a point, and now he tells us to hurry up. So we know that that's all working fine. Now we'll head back into the blueprint, the third person character blueprint. And now this is where we'll actually make some cool stuff happen. So we'll go ahead and make a new macro. We will name this, say waiting for player. So now our AI will wait there regardless of what functions we have ahead of this until our player character reaches that point, and that's when the next event will take place. So in the inputs we'll go ahead and we'll add 2, and in the outputs we'll add 1. The first input is just a start, so we'll just say execution pin. Second one we'll choose a vector, and we'll say this will be the location, and then the output we'll just use an execution pin as well. We'll just move them apart. Now to start off with, we'll say get player character, which will be us in the real game, and then we'll get world location. So this is wherever the player character is in the world at that time. And then we will say down here, if I look for distance, vector, I believe, yep, that's the one. So we have 2 in here, so our location goes into vector 1, and our return value, so our player location goes into vector 2. So this is the first point, this is the second point. Now we need to get the distance between where our AI is, which is this location here, which we will set up soon, and where our player character is. So we'll go ahead and say float less than float, and say about so if our character is about say 200 units like further away from our AI, this should trigger off basically. So drag this, we'll look for a branch node here, this will be our condition. This starts here, checks this, if it's true, fine, they can proceed. The player is already there, now the next event can happen. If the player is not there, we will do a delay of 0.2 seconds, and we'll connect this back to our branch. So every 0.2 seconds it will do a check to see if our player character has arrived. If he's arrived, he will fire forwards. If he's not there, he will basically keep checking for him. Now save this back in our event graph. We will just go ahead and drag and drop this right here, and just connect these two print strings together. I'm just going to drag this down here and make sure our location up here is the same. So 890 minus 1070 and 130 as our target point where our AI should be. And we will run up a test here. So we'll say print string if, so whenever our player character reaches, in here I'll just change this to end the outpost. So inside the macro, I'm just changing this to end. Now back here in the event graph, we'll say, so whenever our player character actually reaches close enough to this location, it should say character arrived. Right, now we'll go ahead and save this. Well, let's give it a delay of about, yeah, just a delay of like 1 second. So 1 second after our character arrives, this should say. So, quick test now. So we'll run over to our AI character. He runs to the first target. He will wait a little bit, and then he will tell us to hurry up, as it shows on the top left there. Now, we will run over to our character. Currently nothing's gonna happen, but once we reach that point, wait for 1 second, and it tells us our character has arrived there. But if, say for example, if we run up, and we just do not go there, that that event will not trigger, so nothing else will happen apart from this. So hurry up, that's it, nothing will happen. We'll just keep running around now until we get to that position. Now it will tell us our character has arrived. Now these are of course the places where you guys can make magic happen. You guys can play sounds or animations and just do funky stuff, whatever works. Now down here I'll just select the AI move to and you get controller, Control C, Control V, and connect this up here. Now once again I will go ahead and select my target point too and use the location down here. So 960 on the y-axis, and that's the only thing I need to change. Now we could actually go ahead and run the same check again if you wanted to. So we could see, so on success is when we check this. We'll use the same values here, so 890, 960, and 130. Now it will check to see whether our our character is close enough to the AI. If it is, we'll say print string, and we'll say quest complete, for example. Again, here is where you can play some animations, some sounds, or some event happens. You guys can all link that up together. So we'll do a test now. We'll go ahead to the first target point. We'll follow our character, so he won't have a chance to tell us to hurry up. Or he does, but regardless, we can fix that later. Now we'll go down here and it should say quest complete. So now we know that our basic is basically set up and this is all working. So now this is just a basic way of showing you guys how we can set it up. So our character, basically the AI waits for our character to get there before he moves on to the next target. Now we'll just go over this again just to know what's happening here. So on overlap, I'll just make a comment here. We are saying just when player arrives, do this once. In AI move to AI to move to target 1. And then this we can actually take off. So let's say on success we can take this off. Now we don't do test this anymore. So this one is basically waiting for player to arrive before execution. And then we have a delay of 1 second, and this basically tells us when the player character's arrived. And once again we are saying character AI to move to next target. And then once again same thing, we are just checking, waiting for player, and finally we are just saying quest complete. Now just one final check. Click play, we go to our first character, the AI moves up. We'll just run around, just do nothing. He'll just wait for us. Just nice. Okay. Now we run up to him. After 1 second, he acknowledges that we have arrived. So he runs to the next point. Now no other event will take place until we once again are in a close proximity to our AI character, and then it tells us quest is complete. Now just one last touch to add. We'll go ahead and say in our right at the end here, we'll just say set rotation, set active rotation of our mesh for, let's try this, see if this works. Or say set world rotation, and I'll try and use a value of minus 270. Let's see if this is the right one. So let's do a test quickly. And so run up, just follow him. He'll wait 1 second before he runs off again, and then he turns. I think in our case we only need about so this value you can play around with just to make sure that the player character, the AI, faces our character once again. So perhaps minus 180. But this is it guys, this is what I wanted to show you. So this is how I set that up, and this can be used in so many ways basically. So I wish you guys best of luck in using this in your game, and thank you very much for your time. So this showcase for this scene that I created. So I'm using two major things here. One is I'm using the character Wukong from Paragon, and secondly I'm using the advanced village pack from the Unreal Marketplace. So first of all, I just have my main character here, and if I press G, get out of game mode, I can show you what actually happens in this place. So I have the original character. If I open up the blueprint, inside here I have quite a bit of code going just to make sure that all the events take place. Inside the viewport of the character, I have first of all a text render, just set it up there, and I just have an exclamation mark as just at the top of the character to tell us that this character needs us to say something. If you go further, I have a box of a decent size around the character, just a collision box. So now if we head over to our event graph, as soon as our player overlaps this, I'm just running a do once node here, not S2 is necessary, but just to avoid it from triggering every time the player enters this box. And I'm spawning the sound where our character says his first dialogue. So, and then the target for this is up here, and I have created something that basically allows this sound to fade out as we move away from our character. Next, I'm just using the mesh as a reference, then dragging off a node called play animation, and in here I'm just playing an animation for the character from there are a lot of animations available for this character, so I'm just using one from here. Next off, I have a delay of about 5 seconds, which is the time it takes for our character to basically finish his dialogue and then start running, and that's when he says let's go and he starts jogging forward. So his animation changes from idle, or the animation running here, to jog, and then he starts saying let's go. Next off, I'm using I'm getting the just get controller for this pawn, since we are inside the player character blueprint, and I'm just dragging off a node here and just saying AI move, and just using AI move 2. So this becomes our object, the world context object. The destination, since this is all based inside the player blueprint, I have so out here, if I go back to our scene, this is the nav mesh volume which you can find inside the modes down here. And if we follow this, so about halfway down here I have a target point, and the units here are exactly the units I am referencing. If I can get back to my Unreal Engine, which I am referencing right here. So these are the units which are being referenced in here. Next off, I have a another animation playing. So on success, when our target reaches this target point, when our character reaches there, on success I'm playing an animation idle, so our target turns into an idle animation, and then after 0.2 seconds of waiting, he basically gets annoyed, and then he says, you know, how long are you going to keep me waiting here? Then we have a macro going on here. This macro basically, if I show you inside, I'm getting the player character, which is us within the game, and then getting the world location and getting a distance vector. The inputs here has an execute and a vector. The vector basically, again, if we go back to our event graph, the vector is again the location of this target point. So this tells us that vector 1 is the first point and vector 2 is the second point. So when our character reaches 500 units within the vector point from vector 1, so when this location is close to 500 units with this location, so I'm just doing a float, so if A is less than B, so float is less than B, and so this becomes our condition, and then this is our output. So when our character reaches this point here, our output will basically allow us to go on and do something else afterwards. Now if it's not true, if our player has not reached 500 units within the like close to the target point, then we are using a delay here of 0.2 seconds and then checking that again until it reaches this point here. Then in the event graph, so in case whenever our target reaches this point down here, and we are halfway through playing this sound, we are using it just a stop node here. What this node allows us to do is, if we make this our reference down here, the target, it basically stops any sound that is being played here, and instead triggers a sound where he says again, let's go. Now, as soon as this sound is played here, let's go, I am setting again the animation to jog forward, so our character starts running, and his new target point is down here. So if we move down here to up to this well, we have a second target point down here, and I'm once again referencing the units in the X and the Y right down here. And then afterwards, straight away, I'm turning the animation to idle, so as soon as he reaches that point, the animation is getting changed to idle. And I'm setting his rotation minus 270 degrees, so he turns around and he's facing our character. So once again, I'm using the same macro here, so waiting for player, and then using the updated location from these values down here. And once we are sure that the player has entered this area, we are playing the animation where he just sits down, and then after 2 seconds he starts snoring. Now to demonstrate this, I will just go ahead and go through this. Let's have a look. So we click play. Our character basically walks up to him. He does his first speech, then he starts running, then he waits for us there. Now he starts complaining, but if we enter this circle here, then he says let's go again. And now he will keep waiting for us until we are close enough to him. So if I just wait around, nothing will happen, but as soon as we go there, enter 500 units close to the target point, he plays his animations, and then he goes into his snoring animation and sound. And that's all. So thank you very much everyone for watching. I hope you guys learned something from this. I will continue to make tutorials. If you guys have any requests, please check out the website. I have made a form there. You guys can submit your requests, questions or feedback. And make sure you subscribe and just stay in touch, guys. Thank you very much.